You can't fuck up this name. He's an actual person.
Bold of you to say that.
We looked it up.
Hello, my name is Steve.
And I'm David.
And this is episode 10 of Anime Plus. We are talking about the penultimate episode, episode 24.
We find out the backstory of Albert. We open the episode where basically Albert's stepfather is like, hey, you need to follow what you love because I do what I do because baking bread is what I love. And so after they have this conversation, Albert's stepfather is like, hey, I need you to take this bread to a new parish. There's a new priest there, and he asked us to deliver this bread. Albert gets there. There's no one in there. And he sees this new booth that he's never seen before. He goes in, and the priest basically ambushes him into trying out his new thing called a confessional. Albert's like, isn't this just like the Covenant of Penance? And he's like, yeah, but it's different. And they go back and forth for a bit, and Albert finally is convinced to partake in this new confessional booth. And I learned that around this time is actually when the confessional booth and everything was invented.
At this point, I don't think we can doubt the attention to historical reality with this story.
Right. But I was like, I thought confessionals were like...
I thought it was a thing that existed forever too, so I was a little bit shocked by his surprise and hesitation. Or the fact that he went in there and not knowing what was going to happen.
Right, I was like, how do you not know what a confessional booth is?
No.
I'm a Lutheran and I know what a confessional booth is. So I found out that they weren't around. That was in the span of Catholicism, a relatively new thing.
Yeah, which I guess makes sense, but it's just something I never considered.
He then starts telling the backstory of his life and as to why he doesn't really like to learn anymore or want to go to school.
Well, I don't think we've seen that hammer drop just yet.
Right, but you can tell that this is what it's building up to because we get him talking with his father about how he discovered the North Star. And his father's like, well, remember, you need to learn in a way that it's productive to society. And he's kind of like encouraging him that anytime he learns something, it needs to be useful.
Yeah.
And that your learning should basically be meant to glorify God.
Yeah.
And this is where this dad then says, as long as you do that, I'm gonna get you a tutor. And Albert's like, sure, Dad, whatever you say. And this is where boot drop, Raffle shows up again.
The story ties itself together.
Raffle ends up being Albert's tutor, and Albert and Raffle end up stargazing, and Raffle goes on this like huge tangent about like the constellations and the Greeks. And there was also this whole thing I forgot to mention at the beginning where Albert's stepfather is talking about like Aristotle and Socrates and about people and things, places within the universe according to Greek philosophy, which was really cool, especially because he couldn't pronounce fucking Aristotle.
What was it,
Socrates.
arete?
Yeah, arete.
Yeah.
Somebody's arete in society.
Arete is essentially
your place.
Yeah, the thing that you're supposed to excel at within your life.
And we kind of get this through Raffle, where he's like, just learn.
Yeah, because
there's nothing stopping you from just learning. There is no meaningless learning.
Raffle's presented as the counter to Albert's father's strict approach towards knowledge.
And basically, through Raffle's tutoring and conversations with Albert about how learning isn't meaningless, Albert begins to excel in his learning. And through this, Raffle then invites him to this like meeting of sages, if you will. And he ends up seeing all these like learned people talking about things that might not be the most accepted. And that's where the episode kind of ends.
Yeah, it's pretty much a gathering of the enlightened to cross-pollinate with each other. And Raffle had specifically brought up the idea of it's a place where you can openly discuss things that are normally considered taboo.
Again, fantastic episode.
Absolutely. It was a little confusing though, because Raffle appears to be older than when he died.
Yeah.
Because he was 12 or 14. I don't remember anymore.
It was 13.
Maybe it's in comparison to how diminutive the younger Albert is, because Albert's maybe 7 or 8, maybe 9 at the most, I would assume, where Raffle just kind of feels like he's 17 or something. But I know he's not.
Right. He feels a lot older than
he does, than he did before.
Yeah.
It was interesting to see Raffle return in this capacity, and that may be why, up until this point in the story, we've never known an exact date. Through the course of it, if we would have been following with very specific years, it would have spoiled this chance history. So if Albert is 10 at this point, this would be, and if this was in the same year that Raffle was martyred, at the point at which we meet Albert as an adult, where we get that timestamp of 1468, I think it's like 12 to 14 years later, because Albert is in his early 20s, I believe.
Yeah.
Raffle would have been killed in the 1450s. And then Draka would have died in the 1480s, because it was 35 years later.
Yeah.
The first time skip after Raffle died was 10 years.
Yes.
And then after Bedeni and Atsi died, it was another 25 years. So now we've gone back about 20-ish years.
It's getting complicated.
Yeah, we have one episode left, episode 25, where we're going to find out the tragedy that befell Albert to dissuade him from learning.
Probably the fact that Raffle got executed.
Probably, yeah. So we know that his father died, because there were the moments of the flashbacks.
Yeah.
So I wonder if...
Back-to-back deaths.
But Raffle's heresy led to trouble for Albert's father. It's got to be tied together, which would be another thing to strongly discourage Albert from pursuing his passions in science.
Yeah, I could see that. That's a logical jump.
I think what's great about this is that we have this interesting storyline that pulls itself out of everything we've dealt with before, with the exception of Raffle. Like it pulls back in time what we've been dealing with and moving forward towards, and incorporates a real historical scientist into this fictional story, directly tying it to the beginning portion.
I have a feeling the last episode is going to do the thing we've been talking about, where
tie it all together to Copernicus.
Yep. Albert is going to teach Copernicus, and then we're going to figure out what Copernicus does, and then it's going to be like...
Okay, the thing then that we need to tie up is what that note was that Draka sent off, that she had gotten from Yolenta. Something tells me that note was for Albert, because that would be... in the 1480s.
So it would be the 1480s. Copernicus didn't attend his lectures until 1491, and he died in 1497. Oh my God, I know why this show's called Orb.
Why?
Radzitsky and Copernicus, their work all calculates everything as orbs. That's why it's called Orb. God fucking damn it. It's been in our face this whole time that it led to Copernicus.
We didn't know this guy, though, Radzitsky. I'd never heard of him.
But we all know who Nicholas Copernicus is, and his work is...
Right. We got one episode left. We kind of understand how it's going to end, but it's going to be great to see how they do it.
Yeah.
Next step, reading all the manga.
Yeah, you're right.
And seeing how faithful it was to the anime and what else there was to it, possibly.
Yeah.
Don't forget to check out our other podcast, where we are talking about 3 other concurrent shows for the season. That's pretty much wrapping up, too. We're covering Zenshu, Ubel, Blatt, and Sakamoto days. The season is winding down, and we will soon be into the spring season, where we'll have a whole bunch of new shows to talk about. And then perhaps a returning show for the next season of Anime Plus. All right. Thanks once again, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Deuces.